Very, very few people you talk to in Egypt would say the current regime was a good regime or the current regime was helping the people. But what people would say is that it's a very stable country. We're very stable, even though most people are poor. The majority of Egyptians are living in horrible poverty. They would say, at least we're stable, at least we're not Iraq, at least we're not Palestine, at least we live in general stability. We haven't had a civil war like Algeria in the 90s or other Arab countries. We've been extremely stable since the revolutions in the 1920s and then the 1950s. And so the kind of feeling was that, okay, we'll just suffer through this and hopefully he'll die or something will happen to him and then we'll be able to move on.
The reasons for the protests, and if you want to use now a stronger word, the revolt or the revolutions, are actually in many other Arabic countries. You know that started with Tunis, which actually nobody ever expected to start there, but started there, and now Egypt.
Well, I mean, I think certainly we can see it as part of a wave of change that that found its first expression in the Tunisian Revolution, and I think that the Tunisian Revolution demonstrated to Arabs around the region that change was possible. And also it gave voice to the same things that people were feeling in other countries, a kind of just being fed up with the censorship, the lack of freedom of expression. So I think that a kind of fatigue with autocracy after 2 decades in the case of Tunisia or 3 decades in the case of Egypt.
I would say this is a glimpse of what the Egyptian and many of the other Arab people lived under for 30 years and more.
But in the specific case of Egypt, I think you also see that the Mubarak regime has been so repressive and corrupt in many ways, and has not allowed civil society to develop and flourish, and instead has kind of promoted opacity and basically corruption, and that has alienated the people from the state in many ways. So I think that's a big thing as well there. When
you lose the trust, between a government and the people, then you can. This is based on this, and this is a very basic element of political engagement of both. If you don't, the trust is not there, and this kind of loss of trust is not just kind of through 1 or 2 or 3 times. It's continual.
I think that these kinds of feelings of a kind of desire for freedom, self-expression, is one thing. There also been a lot of economic pressures on people. So I think that the economic hardships, and particularly the way that they squeeze the opportunities for young people, has been a major problem in Egypt. People have also pointed out, of course, that rising commodity prices on the world market, like especially for wheat, but for other staples as well, have created a lot of hardship for the most vulnerable populations.